it's eclipse time. We're having a major eclipse happening this summer in June of 2020. I had hoped to do some eclipse videos earlier before this, but time didn't let me. Now that the eclipse is here, I'm going to focus on what's most important to me when it comes to eclipses, and that's eclipses in your personal life, in our personal life. I'm not going to be looking at eclipse relevant to world events in this video. However, you'll learn a lot in this video that you can apply to world events if you want to, and maybe if I find some time I'll do some world event ones too. But as always for me, the most important thing is the one person at a time. And that's really how eclipses work. They change humanity over a 1,300-year period, one person at a time. And that's what they're really doing. How it starts out is, there'll be an eclipse at the North or South Pole, meaning it's going to be visible from the North or South Pole. And that eclipse will barely be an eclipse. Only a little bit of the sun will be obscured by the moon. So most of the sun will be visible. There'll just be a hint of the moon's shadow on the eclipse. And that's the beginning of an eclipse cycle that lasts 1,300 years. Now the particular eclipse we're having now, the beginning of that eclipse cycle was June 3rd, 1389. Okay? At 3:57:31 local mean time at the ancient prime meridian of Yamakoti, which is at 0 north, 165 east 46 longitude. Okay? Which is where I always calculate these type of things from. So, this eclipse of 1389 started something that's going to last about 1,300 years. Okay? And right now we're in that same cycle. Now why is it the same cycle? Well, eclipses repeat every 18, 19 years about, where the same eclipse happens, but in a slightly different place. It usually happens 18 years and about 10, 11 days later. Okay? Now what's interesting about this, when the first eclipse happened, as in 1389 over here, the sun and moon are very far from Rahu or Ketu, the north or south node of the moon, which causes the eclipse. So, at the time of this first eclipse, Rahu was at 25 degrees of its sign, and the sun and moon conjunction was at 12 degrees, which means there is a 17-degree difference. So the first eclipse happens when there's a 15 to 18-degree difference between the sun-moon conjunction and Rahu. So it's barely an eclipse, it just touches it. Imagine it like the new moon, right when or like a new moon conjunction, That's the chart we would use to predict what's going to happen the next month. So we do it the same with the eclipse cycle. We look at this eclipse, at that first hint of an eclipse, and we say, this is what this eclipse cycle is gearing up for, what it's moving us for. And we read this chart, which I'm going to spend time doing in this video, so you can understand what this eclipse means to you. Okay? Now, every 18 years that this eclipse happens, the difference between the sun-moon conjunction and the Rahu or Ketu where it connects is going to be less. And the eclipse always starts with the sun, the first eclipse in the cycle always starts with the sun and moon in front of Rahu or Ketu. So further advanced along the zodiac than Rahu or Ketu, okay? So, over about almost 700 years, the sun-moon conjunction where the eclipse happens moves towards Rahu or Ketu until finally it's exactly or close to exact with Rahu or Ketu. And then the next eclipse cycle after that, it's going to go behind it. And those two eclipse cycles are the big ones. Those are the ones where there's a total solar eclipse, and for a long time, because the sun, moon, and Rahu or Ketu, the north or south node of the moon, are within less than a degree of each other, which means a long eclipse. And those long eclipses, like that, are usually preceded by a lunar eclipse and followed by another lunar eclipse. So whenever you see 3 eclipses happening in a row, a lunar, a solar, and a lunar, you know that eclipse is in its maturation page of that cycle. Okay? So, the eclipse we're having now, we have a lunar, a solar, and a lunar, which means we're getting really close to the maturation of this eclipse. Now, the maturation of this eclipse cycle happens when the sun and moon are as close as they can be to Rahu and Ketu, and still on this side, and then also the next eclipse where the sun and moon jump to the other side of Rahu and Ketu. Okay, now, when the next time this eclipse cycle happens will be 2038. That's the last one in this cycle where the sun and moon will be further advanced from Rahu or Ketu. The eclipse after that, they're going to jump to the other side of Rahu or Ketu. So, the most important eclipse in this cycle are the 2038 one and the one happening 18 years after that. Okay? But right now, we're really, really close to it. So the events are gaining mass. How these eclipse cycles work, it's really a snowball effect. Where with this first eclipse cycle in 1389, the people who were hit by that eclipse did some things a little differently. They broke out of the mold a little bit and started this slight snowball effect. And it increased, and it increased, and it increased, and it increased, and it increased. And now we're in the ending phases, or the cumulative phases, with this snowball getting as big as it can get. It's going to be as big as it can get in 2038. That's the biggest this snowball is going to get. And then that snowball is going to have an impact in the world that will have remains of it that will affect global life, people on Earth, for about 650, almost 700 years more. So it's this cumulative phase, and then what manifests as a result of that culmination, that energy starts to fade for the next 700 years. And so we have this cycle of about 1,300 years. And the beautiful thing is, at any given time on Earth, we have 38 eclipse cycles happening at any given time. So the eclipse we had last December, January, is of a completely different eclipse cycle with a completely different focus than the eclipse that's happening this summer. And the eclipse happening in December later this year is a completely different cycle with a completely different focus. Okay? So every eclipse is doing something different, and there's always 38 eclipses moving human destiny along, evolving us, changing us at any time within a 19-year period. Okay? So, the eclipse we want to focus on now is this one whose story began in 1389. Alright? So, when we look at this eclipse, we just look for the most important thing first. During this eclipse chart, the most important thing was we had Neptune, Venus, and Pluto with Rahu, the north node. Now, the visible planets are always going to be the most important to focus on. Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, which are the invisible planets to the naked eye, are going to impact the visible planet, you bet. But the planet we got to focus on is the visible planet, and that's Venus. So Venus is the most important planet of this eclipse cycle. Okay? Now, all the planets have their role to play, but Venus is the most important of them. Okay? Venus is the planet we use to get nourishment from the outside so that we can have a healthy foundation in our life. You know, it's everything we get from the outside that's required to have a healthy, stable foundation to do whatever wonderful things we hope to do in our lives. Okay? It's an essential thing, Venus. We can't survive in this world long without Venus. Venus is the clothing we need, it's the food we need, it's the affection we need, it's the human relationship we need. It's the vehicles we need. It also rules vehicles. Why? Because vehicles allow us to travel further distances to get our essential needs, which is Venus. So now a vehicle, you can jump in an airplane and get emotional nourishment from somebody. You can import bananas from Paraguay in the middle of the summer and eat bananas if you get nourished by bananas. So those are all Venus things. Anything that gives you the foundation of nourishment and well-being in this world is Venus. Okay? So, Venus is the critical planet in this eclipse. It's with Neptune and it's with Pluto. Okay, now, it's 26 minutes away from Neptune. They're almost they're in the same degree, just 26 minutes away. Venus is 11 degrees away from Pluto. So, the most significant thing in this eclipse chart is the Neptune-Venus conjunction. It's an exact conjunction. And that exact conjunction is going to impact this eclipse cycle for about 1,300 years. Okay? So we have to study that combination more than anything in order to understand this eclipse. And then we can add the other factors that are going on. Okay? We don't have to worry about the house positions here in this chart, or even the sign positions. We're going to focus on planets mostly. So, what is Neptune? We have to understand Neptune if we want to make the most out of this eclipse as it hits us, okay? Neptune is, I think, the most abused planet out there, the most misinterpreted, okay? To understand Neptune, I got to give a real brief little idea about Uranus and Pluto. Uranus is new stuff that manifests out of us, and as a result of this new stuff coming out of us, as we grow into ourselves more, yes, we'll meet new interesting things out there. But those things are coming because of the new that's manifesting out of us. Okay? Pluto is the planet that's here. Pluto's basically Shiva. Okay? Pluto's here to basically cut off the junk that's no longer helping us, which means the ideas we have in our mind, the concepts that are limiting our well-being, our happiness, our growth, and our flowering spirituality. Okay? So, and Uranus is like Brahma. He's the creative energy. He's like, there's something new here. Pluto's like this old idea, this old way of living, this old way of being. We got to get rid of it. Okay, that's Shiva. Neptune is Vishnu. All right? Now, Vishnu, if you read Hindu mythology, is a great deity. All right? He's the one who always saves the day, right? Yet, in astrology, we really worry. People freak out when Neptune's coming. They're like, oh, Neptune's coming. I can't trust anything. No. Neptune is an amazing planet if you learn how to use it. So, between the state of new energy emerging, which is Uranus, Brahma, and old energy that's not working going away, which is Shiva, Pluto, there's the energy we have to work with. But this energy is not meant to stay in a stagnant place. It's meant to move and change and hopefully evolve. It just needs to change. See, energy is in a constant state of change. And that's what the Neptune is. It's time to change the energy. It's not about new energy. It's not about getting rid of energy, which is Pluto. It's about change. So when Neptune comes, it's an opportunity for change. That's really what it is. It's an opportunity for change, not of things necessarily, though sometimes. It's an opportunity of changing how you use your energy with something. So for instance, Neptune with Venus. Venus is your love energy, and the energy you use to get the things you need in your life. You have a way that you do that. You're aware of that need. You're aware you need love, for instance. Okay? And you go about getting love in a certain way. And you have all this energy to be in love. Okay? It's only working so good. Neptune with Venus is about, all right, I know I need love. I have energy for love. How can I transmute this energy to have a more loving experience? That's literally what a Neptune-Venus is all about. How can I transmute this energy to have a healthier experience, an experience that gives me more nourishment? That's what Neptune is. So it's about, how can I change how I'm cooking? I know I got to eat every day, and I'm hungry every day. It's not new to me. It's not Uranus that I got to eat. And I'm not dying Pluto, so I don't need any more. I have appetite. How can I change what I'm eating so my appetite provides more health? That's how Neptune literally works. Yet Neptune has this reputation as the great illusionist. Don't trust Neptune. Hell yeah, you can trust Neptune. The problem is we can't always trust ourselves. Because the truth is, evolving is so hard. It is so hard to change that energy, to change out of our habit, to transmute energy from a lower part of ourselves to a higher part. Because that's really what Neptune's about. It's about saying, okay, you've been living on this. Let's eat a better diet. Okay, you want love. All right, let's find a healthier love. That's what Neptune's asking. And it's very, very hard to move to a healthier state of being. So lots of times when a Neptune comes, things don't work out for people because they're unable to take advantage of that opportunity. So I see Neptune as an opportunity for something more nourishing. Okay? It's not a sure thing though. When Uranus comes, it's a sure thing. Something new is coming out. When Uranus hits your Venus, in that year period of it happening, you're going to find a new way to nourish yourself in this world. When Pluto hits your Venus, wow, some ways you've been trying to nourish yourself are coming to an end. All right? Definitively. When Neptune comes along, you have an opportunity to become more nourished from things of this world, including your relationships. But will you succeed? Wow, we don't know. It depends. How hard are you going to work it? Okay, what are you going to do? Neptune is very much a planet of God saying, okay, here's a chance. What are you going to do with it? You know? And God is like that. When Uranus comes, he goes, here, you take this. No choice. You take this. You're going to want it. Trust me. And you're like, maybe I don't want it. God's like, yeah, you want it. I'm going to force it on you. You're going to love it. Or maybe you'll say, yeah, I really want it. Either way, you're getting it with Uranus. And when Pluto comes, God's going to pull it out of your arms. And you'll say, no, let me keep it. And you'll hold on to it. But he'll keep pulling until he pulls out of your arms. When Neptune comes, he goes, look, here's something. What do you think you could do with this? Like, he wants to watch. He's not going to automatically just say, all right, here's an opportunity for more nourishment in this world, and I'm going to make sure you get it. He just says, here's an opportunity for more nourishment. I want to see what you can do with it. Okay? And then, because we're humans, we usually muck it up. Honestly, we usually do. And as a result of being humans that usually muck things up, Neptune has this reputation of being the illusionist, the person who sets us, the planet that sets us up for disappointment. So realize when Neptune's happening, this is a chance to get more nourishment. It's not a sure thing. So in this eclipse with the Neptune-Pluto exact conjunction, this eclipse cycle is about people finding ways to become more nourished in this world through their relationships, through better vehicles, which allow them to travel greater distances to get more nourishment, through healthier food, through healthier lifestyle, through interrelating with our environment in any way that promotes a foundation of well-being, happiness, and health. Okay? This eclipse is giving that chance. If it hits you, if it hits one of your planets, if it hits one of your cusps, the closer it is to your cusp or planet, the more important it is. Okay? If it's hitting you, you're getting a chance right now to find greater nourishment in this world. Now, what makes it so hard is that we always have expectations. Okay? We always have expectations. And it's not Neptune that's disappointing us or giving the illusion. It's our expectations that are creating the illusion. So we have an expectation that love is supposed to be a certain way, right? And Neptune's just saying, hey, here's an opportunity for more nourishment in the world than you've had. And then we walk into it with like, love is like this, instead of seeing the opportunity. So the reason we as humans tend to muck up the opportunity of Neptune is we don't see the opportunity for the opportunity it really is. Our expectations make us want the opportunity to be something certain specific. And when it's not, we get disappointed. Disappointment requires adequate expectation. That's Neptune. Okay? However, if you go into Neptune, if you're getting hit by this eclipse, you've got an opportunity for greater nourishment. Be open to how that opportunity may arise. That's what you need to do with Neptune. You go, okay, there's an opportunity. It's that, but I have to allow for that opportunity. I have to see that opportunity. I can't say, the only way I'll have this is if this is it this way. No, if you do that, you lose the opportunity. You will miss out on this chance. You have to see what the gift is when Neptune comes and embrace it and not expect it to be in a different form than you think it should be. You're here to experience the nurturing energy on a level that you can't quite conceive yet. And so if you expect it to be on the level you want or have had, you will be disappointed. But if you allow it to be on the level that it is, you'll be happy. Neptune, Vishnu is all about experiencing something on the level it is. And when you get this eclipse or you get Neptune transit, this eclipse is about, all right, you can get more nourishment on a level of availability that's here. May not be how you planned it, may not be what you expected. In fact, it won't be. But it's going to be a real opportunity that if you work that opportunity, you will find yourself getting more nourished as a result of this eclipse by something in the world. Okay? So this is creating a lot of havoc for people. I've seen people leave their partnerships with this. Okay? Just one day, yesterday, someone texted me, I'm leaving, I moved out, da-da-da, and they are moving out of a 20-year relationship or something like that. Why? Because that's what they needed for greater nourishment. Okay? They needed the freedom to relate to things on their own level instead of the partnership level. To relate on things based on their energy, not their partnership's energy. So that's what they needed. And they feel really happy. They took the opportunity. So this eclipse can happen in many different ways depending what it's hitting in your chart. If it's hitting your 6th, 8th, or 12th house, it's more likely to hit things in a way that is, more of a separative type thing. If not, it might be a more connective type thing. Okay? It could be either way. You really have to study your chart. But what you want to remember is this eclipse is about helping you become more open to possibilities. Okay? And to have opportunities to work possibilities in the way that those possibilities actually exist, not necessarily the way you expect them to exist. If you have expectations, get ready for disappointment. But if you can just be open to, wow, more nourishment is available to me than I had before, then this eclipse will not disappoint you. Okay? So that's what's happening with the Neptune-Venus. And this eclipse is starting this over a period of 1,300 years, and it's snowballing. So imagine the first person who got hit by this eclipse in 1389. You know? And let's just pretend, I'll make a pretend person here. So it's a lady. And she works hard, she has 3 kids, and she lives in a little cabin with her husband in 1389 somewhere. And she works hard, she has to prepare all the food from nothing, she has to grind her own flour with a steel, with a, what's it called? The little thing you grind your wheat in by hand, little hand grinder, 3 hours later, enough to make some porridge. So she's hardworking, and she wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., even though she was working late, making sure everything was ready and the kids kept her all night up. But she wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. to make sure her husband has enough for breakfast. Okay? And this eclipse hits her first house, let's say. And she's like, my God, I'm tired all the time. I'm not getting the nourishment from this world. I'm not even getting enough sleep. And this eclipse hits her and she says, I think I'm just going to sleep in. I'm going to start sleeping a little later. My husband's just going to have to get up and cook his own breakfast. Wow. Would she be the talk of the town, right? She'd be a radical little housewife, right? She's actually sleeping in. They'll have breakfast ready when her husband wakes up or something, And she took a little step towards evolving relationships. So in a way that she could have a little more nourishment in her life. Okay, it's a very crude example I'm giving, all right? Because I want to make this clear. It's not that big a deal. I mean, we laugh at that. That's a joke to us, right? Or we might get offended. Why would she be expected to do that? But imagine a world in 1389 when maybe that was expected, right? Well, not a big deal. But, oh my gosh, people would have pointed at her. Oh my God, my husband told me that he came to work hungry because she didn't cook breakfast for him this morning. Wow, what a housewife, So you can see how this could have been a problem. Nowadays, 650 some years later or so, a person gets hit with this eclipse and they wake up and they go, I am not doing this anymore. And they walk out of their marriage or they walk out of their 20-year-old relationship. See, what started with a really small thing that was almost insignificant Wash your own laundry, said the one lady in 1389. In 1489, a lady said, no, I don't have time for this. Go away, to her spouse, or the husband said that to her. And now they're like, no, this is absolutely wrong for me. I have other opportunities for happiness that aren't this relationship. And so what happens is, as these eclipse cycles snowball, the things they promote people to do are bigger. So right now, with this eclipse cycle being so close to its culmination in 2038, when we get hit by it, you're going to have much more bigger changes of what you're willing to do to get more nourishment in your life than the little lady or the little man did in 1389. But the only reason you're able of doing that huge thing now is because of those tiny little steps they took back in 1389. It created this social momentum of one individual at a time doing a little more, being a little more open to happiness and nourishment to create this snowball effect. Okay? So this is a really big eclipse now because it's got 650 or so, more than 650, 680 or so years of momentum behind it. So if you get hit by this eclipse, you got a 680-year snowball coming into your life. Okay? And not just a 18-year snowball. You've got years of momentum. Okay? But the truth is, the lady who moved out on her husband, after 20 years, what she did took no more effort than the lady who decided she was not going to cook breakfast for her husband in 1389. It took the same amount of grit for that lady in 1389 to say, I'm sleeping in, than it took this lady to walk out of her marriage. Okay? Because it wasn't nourishing and she had other possibilities for nourishment. Okay? So, when an eclipse hits you, it's always intense. But when we measure what actually happens externally, bigger things happen externally as the eclipse culminates where it is now, compared to when it's just in its beginning of a little tiny little snowball. But that little tiny little snowball, the people who push that down the hill, wow, they have to push just as hard as people who get hit by it today have to push this snowball right now. Okay, so the experience is the same, although the external is completely different. And the experience with this eclipse, an opportunity for greater nourishment that many, many people will not succeed in because they will not be open to the opportunity due to their expectations. That's Neptune. Now, one thing we have in our favor for this eclipse, if you want to say that, is Neptune's also with Pluto. Venus is also with Pluto. They're 11 degrees away. They're far away. But Pluto is right with the North Node. They're within less than half a degree of each other, of that eclipse. So what that means is Pluto is a big player in this eclipse. And when Pluto is a big player, it means, okay, I'm willing to be vicious, radical, and get rid of the stuff that I have to. So it's going to help people who get with this eclipse get rid of the limiting concepts of how things have to be. And that'll hurt. So there'll be a disappointment along with this eclipse. People who get hit by this eclipse, you're going to have some disappointment. Your expectations are going to be shoved in your face. But it's because they're shoved in your face that you're going to realize, I don't get my expectations. It's going to actually help you see the opportunity for what it really is, how you really can have a more nourishing life, even though your expectations just got smashed in your face. I like that. Because if you don't have your expectations smashed in your face, you can muck up an opportunity that could help you because you're holding on to your expectations. But this eclipse, Pluto's not going to let you hold on to those expectations. It's going to smash them in your face. And that way they won't be in the way of you embracing more Neptune, which is, when it comes to Venus, an opportunity for greater nourishment in this world from some source. Could be any source. Okay? What source? Examine your chart carefully. Yes, if it hits relationship factors, oh yeah, it's relationship world. If it hits personal factors like the first house, your sun, or your Upmakarika, your soul planet, it'll be about how you're nourishing yourself. Okay? whatever it may be. If it's the 12th house, maybe it's the amount of time you take off from work where you need to find nourishment, whatever. Okay? All right. Those are the two most critical things, the Neptune-Venus-Pluto conjunction. Now, over there by the south node, always look at planets that are with the south node or the north node to start with. We've got Uranus right at the beginning of the sign. So it's literally 13 degrees and 15 minutes or so from Venus. So it's far away, but still opposite. I'm going to pay attention to it. So this eclipse also has Uranus there, which is saying, okay, there's more stuff coming out of me. There's more self-development happening in my life to help me nourish myself. So we have all three outer planets are somehow impacting Venus, but the main one is Neptune, which is simply, there's an opportunity, it's not what you expect, it's not what you planned for, it's not what you necessarily dreamed about, but it's an opportunity to benefit from, and you'll benefit to it to the degree that you let go of your expectations, okay, of how things have to be, which can ruin, and which are the one thing that ruins a Neptune experience in your life. Okay, now the other thing that's happening in this eclipse, we had a Mercury-Mars conjunction, okay? Mercury-Mars is not one of the pretty, conjunctions in astrology. Mercury is an enemy to Mars and it starves it, okay? So, what this conjunction is going to do, it's going to cause conflict, strong differences of opinions, to different people coming together with very strong ideas that don't agree. Okay? So yeah, if you're getting hit by this eclipse, you're going to have to agree to disagree or get punched in the face or punch in the face. You can get a lot of conflict with this eclipse. Okay? Now, the Mars-Venus are in a strong aspect to each other as well. And so it amplifies this as part of the eclipse pattern. Okay? So potential conflict will come out. When Mars is with Mercury, it's all too opinionated. People just have strong opinions about things that they don't want to let go of. Look at charts of people with Mars-Mercury conjunctions. They're the ones that love to push ideas and have conflicts with others, okay? So if you get hit by this eclipse, yes, expect to be around people or be involved with people who say, this is how it has to be, or this is what I really need from you, and you're like, well, geez, I just can't agree with that. Somehow you cannot do it. So there will be some conflict in wills. That's, I think, the more unpleasant part of this experience. And that, again, this will impact worldly events too, but I'm talking about it personally in your chart mostly. And with Mercury and Mars, you're not usually able to resolve arguments. So this eclipse is always going to leave a pattern of, okay, there's conflict here that's not resolvable. Okay? Where two people have differing ideas, and it's just going to be a certain way, and people won't be happy. Everyone won't be happy. Okay? So expect some of that in your life. To handle that, I just hate Mars-Mercury because it's not resolvable. It's just not. So yeah, you're just going to have to say, you have to agree to disagree. Try not to engage. Try not to have conflict. They're not going to get your opinion. They're not going to get where you're coming from, these people you have conflict for now. Just let it go. Just say, hey, you can think of it that way, but I have to think of it this way. Don't push. Don't engage. It's the only thing you can do when Mars-Mercury is there. You have to learn to not engage. Okay? Those are our primary things going on. Those conjunctions, those permutations. There's always a Sun-Moon conjunction anytime you have an eclipse, so it's not a special thing to examine. Saturn's alone, Jupiter's alone. These are the highlights of this eclipse every time it hits someone in the next, over a 1,300-year period. Okay, now, in the eclipse happening this year of this cycle, 6/21/2020 at 5:44:30 p.m., again at 0 north, 165 east, 46, we have got Rahu at 29 degrees, the sun and moon just over the border of the sign at 0 degrees something. They're within a degree of each other. So it's a full big eclipse. It's a big snowball. It's not the biggest snowball. The biggest snowball's in 18 years. Okay? It's the second biggest snowball in this cycle. So when it hits people, people are going to do big shifts. Okay? If it's hitting you, expect a lot of differences. Okay? A lot of change. If it's hitting you and you're getting that conflict of the Mars-Mercury, expect a lot of Mercury-Mars conflict. Okay? Now, in this current eclipse, there'll be some slight variations to help us in our time of need of this day and age compared to, 1389. And that is Mercury's with the Sun-Moon conjunction, and Venus is with Rahu again. So the fact that Venus is with Rahu again, just as it was in the original eclipse, and about 1 out of 3 times, maybe 4 times, probably 1 out of 3 times, Venus was probably with Rahu on average. So it's not super unusual for this to happen, okay? Venus is almost always with Rahu or the Sun and Moon in an eclipse, in a solar eclipse. And that's because this Venus is only so far from the Sun at any time. So that's why all eclipses, most eclipses, tend to have some relationship ramification, okay? All right, and also Mercury ramification, because Mercury is almost always there too. Now in the original eclipse, Mercury was not really being changed. Mercury was just being stubborn and opinionated, okay, because it was with the Mars. But it wasn't really like being transformed by Rahu or Ketu or Pluto and any of that. It wasn't impacted by those directly. In this particular eclipse, we have the Rahu Venus again. So yeah, it's going to be big about, relationships, and not only relationships, but where you get all your nourishment in this world. Primary nourishment that we think about these days is our relationship. In the old days, in 1389, the primary source of nourishment was not for our hearts. People wandering around thinking, oh, I need more emotional nourishment. They were like, oh, my stomach's growling, But this day and age, yeah, mostly when you think of Venus, and we think of emotional nourishment. But remember, Venus is also food nourishment. It's just we've gotten used to being fat, so we don't think of it that way anymore, okay? But Venus is there, so the question of nourishment will come up. If you get hit a lot in this big snowball of an eclipse we're getting now, you'll be thinking about, is this nourishing to me? You're a woman who'd been with that guy for 20 years. Wow, it just wasn't nourishing enough. She was getting sick and drained and exhausted. So she went to a more nourishing place, living alone and having her own environment. And that was more nourishing for her, leaving a relationship. So again, where you're going to find your nourishment is a big part of this eclipse. You'll be questioning that. It'll come into your consciousness. Is this nourishing me? How do I get more nourishment? Is this a nourishing opportunity? That's what you're looking for. Is it what I expect? How I expect it to be nourished? No. But that doesn't mean it's not the best nourishing opportunity of your life, or at least a very good one to take, okay? The other big thing in this eclipse, I need to pull up this chart, okay, is that Mercury is with the Sun-Moon, okay? Luckily, Mercury is retrograde. In the original eclipse going back in 1389, Venus was not, Mercury wasn't, but now they're both retrograde. That means they have more impact for nice things, okay? So stronger possibility. So whatever you get, if you're able to receive this eclipse, if you're open to the nourishments that's there, it'll be greater because Mercury is retrograde, and especially Venus is retrograde, okay? Especially because Venus is retrograde. Retrograde planets are closer to Earth, which means they can give you more. It's a good thing, okay? All right, but Mercury's with the Sun-Moon. Mercury doesn't love being with the Sun-Moon, though. So there can be confusion. When you try to talk to people, you'll get confused. This eclipse originally is about conflict, the Mars-Mercury, where Mercury is saying it is, forcing Mars to be a certain way, basically, trying to. And so we have conflict. In this eclipse, Mercury is with the Moon and it's getting confused. Okay? So when you find yourself having a conflict with people, and you try to talk things out that are being caused by this eclipse, you might find yourself just hitting a lot of confusion, where it's like, huh? Not being able to really clear it out. And the other danger of this eclipse, with this Moon-Mercury thing going on, is Mercury Moon makes a person your own worst used car salesman. Meaning, Mercury Moon loves to talk us into something that's not right and sell it as it is, as if it is right. Okay? People have a Mercury Moon conjunction in their chart, they come with this compatibility, and you say it's a bad compatibility. Go away, run. And they'll say, but he has this, and he has this, and he has this. Seems like a really good guy, and I'll say, run. And they'll say, all right, but he has this, and then they leave and they date him and have a miserable 6 months, and I look at her chart, or his chart, and it's a Mercury Moon conjunction. Mercury Moon loves to sell themselves on something that's not right. Okay? So with this eclipse too, on this particular one happening this year, you need to be aware that there's a Mercury Moon conjunction. Okay? And that you might think you have to take the deal that's being offered and miss the deal that's really there. That sounds confusing, right? Meaning you can see a deal and talk yourself into something that's not. At the end of the day, you only can take the real deal. All right? So you might confuse yourself. You might try to convince yourself of things as this eclipse goes through. So as a result, before you make any super long-term decisions during this eclipse, wait. And make sure you didn't talk yourself in, that you didn't sell yourself, a used car that was bad and try to convince yourself it was good. Because that's what Mercury Moon does. It makes us try to convince ourselves something is better than we know it is. Okay? So, stop the mental chatter. Stop trying to convince yourself. Just say, what is this? Is it yes or no for me? Okay? Try to get clarity and that clear yes or no feeling instead of, oh, I think this is good. Look at that really good thing that's over there. No. If you're playing that game, then this eclipse will deceive you more likely. Either case, don't be too rash during this eclipse. Try to be calm, collected, take your time, examine things, make sure you're not selling yourself something that's not right for yourself. Okay? Mercury Moon does that because it needs something right now. I need a car right now. I'll say, that shitty car, it'll work. No, it won't. It's a shitty car. If you buy a shitty car because you think you need it now, instead of walking another 100 miles on your feet until you find a good car, you're going to miss the chance to get the good car in 100 miles of walking. Same with everything else. Don't talk yourself into shitty things because you're desperate for something today. All right? That's the thing we have to learn with Moon Mercury. All right. Now, the good news is Jupiter is opposite Mercury. I know you're saying, oh, but Jupiter's, debilitated maybe. Well, I don't care because it's also a retrograde, so it has some good to give to the Mercury over here and this whole conjunction over here. So Jupiter will help you have a little more wisdom. Therefore, I'm telling you to not run into your Moon Mercury and confuse yourself and sell yourself something you don't want. So Jupiter's helping you out here. The other important thing on this chart that's important, we have a Mars, Rahu are on angles from each other within 4 degrees of each other. Planets on angles from each other, always very important. Mars, Rahu on angles from each other, that's more potential passion and fire going into this whole Rahu Venus, which means you can be impulsive and do stupid things. So again, take your time. It's also going to create more potential for conflict. Again, like in this original eclipse, the Mercury-Mars, it's going to have conflict. Imagine that first lady who said, actually, I'm not going to wake up and cook breakfast for my husband in 1389. Imagine the conflict that created, okay? And again, I'm being funny about it, trying to convey the idea. I'm sure that happened at least once, though, okay? Now, with the Mars here, aspecting the Venus and the Rahu, looks like I drew Venus wrong, too. Okay. This eclipse can bring conflict into your life, where, again, people just are not going to be able to agree. It'd be nicer if Mars was clear of the whole picture, but it's here. Okay, people will not be able to agree on certain things right now, and the conflict will be high. What can you do? Don't engage, because this eclipse cycle has irresolvable conflicts that no one's going to agree. You just have to agree to disagree. Everyone go do things their own way when that conflict comes up. Okay? All right. So that's what this eclipse is doing for you. I'm trying to prepare you for this, okay? As all eclipses, if it's hitting you, it's going to change your life to a small or drastic degree, depending on how close it's hitting you and what exactly it's hitting, okay? If it's hitting your angles, house cups 1, 4, 7, or 10, or the rulers of your angles, or your moon, or your sun, your Upmakarika, any of these really big important things in your chart, then you bet you're going to have some big, and especially if it's close in degrees, expect some big changes revolving around that area of our life that give you opportunity for nourishment, yet which come with an element of conflict and an element of you really wanting to believe something's really good, and you're going to be a little skewed about just how wonderful that thing is. You know, you'll talk yourself into it in ways that aren't completely real. So, but there is a real opportunity there. And the trick is to find that real opportunity amongst the conflicting opinions you're going to experience, against the resistance you're going to have in fulfilling that opportunity, and in face of the fact that Mercury Moon's going to create some expectations, okay? And some of those expectations are not going to be correct. And therefore you can feel a little bummed when things end up if you don't take your time. Make sure you're clear, and again, shut the voice off that's telling you this is how it is, this is how it is. Say no. What's the opportunity? Where does the opportunity feel right and good? Yeah, I always want more. I'm a human. I'm a pig. I always want more. But that doesn't mean I have to tell myself there's more here than there is right now. Okay? That's an important part of this eclipse too, to help you to take full advantage of it. Because this eclipse, I mean, all eclipses are good to me, I think, because eclipses are what move us forward, which help us grow and evolve in our lives and evolve as our cultures and evolve on a global level, one person at a time, by the people who get hit with that eclipse. So if you're getting hit by this eclipse, yes, you're being asked for yourself and for future generations to find greater nourishment in your life, to see the opportunity for greater nourishment and to take it, even though it won't be everything you expect, even though there'll be an element of, it'll create a conflict with others in your life, okay? And you're being asked to be brave, to accept those conflicts, to do it anyway, and you're being asked to appreciate what you're given, and to be real about it, and not try to lie to yourself that you're getting something you're not, which the Mercury Moon likes to get, okay? Likes to do. If you can do that, and you're getting hit by this eclipse, you should have a nourishing experience, and you should come out of this eclipse on the other side with something in this world that will make you, nourish you more than it did before, whether it's being alone, eating better, getting a puppy dog, who knows? Something that provides an element of nourishment, okay? And for some people, even starting a new relationship is possible. But take your time during this time, because we got the Mercury Moon. And Mercury Moon is always a fun one, and it's in there it's in there. It's part of this eclipse pattern, okay? It's not part of the original one, so it's not going to be that serious. Now, you've been warned. I don't expect anyone to fall into that trap. Had it been in this original chart, even with my warning, I would expect us all to go be stupid. But since it's not in the original chart, we should now be able to escape the Mercury Moon. Okay? All right. Have fun with your lives. Thank you.